see the historical data that we have in the system, right? So we have data going back to 2024 up through March of 2026. Now, the challenge when I want to do planning is, this backwards data, the historical data is interesting, right? But I'm really doing forward planning. I want to plan from the beginning, basically for 2026. So I want to plan for all 12 months of 2026. My historical data, doesn't support that, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to show you how you can extend your date dimension table to make it a little bit more dynamic and to force the visibility of these future periods. So this is a PowerTable sheet that's been set up, and it's sitting on top of a SQL database table where I've got my calendar information, and basically I've got 2024 through 2027 set up. So it's a monthly calendar, so it's not a daily calendar. And so I've got my typical columns that you would expect inside of here. But what I really need is I need a couple of additional fields so I can make this dynamic. And the way that we can do that is I can go in here and I can insert a database column, and I can call the field something like is valid for forecast. And we can make it an integer, and we can say by default it's 0. Now I'm actually not going to save it here. I've already got it kind of built out, which I'll show you in a minute. But it'd be as simple as this to add some additional columns to your calendar table. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you the columns that I have hidden because I've already got these built out. So I've got the is valid for forecast and the date is open. So I've got two pieces of information here. So the is valid for forecast defines what the periods that are open for forecast or that are available for forecast, and then the date is open lets us know whether that month is a closed period or an open period. So by adding two simple fields in here, this gives us the ability to force open, which you'll see in a minute, those dates on our grid. So let's take a moment and jump over into the semantic model, and let's look at some of the date dimensions or the date measures that we built. So the first one is this date is open, and all this is doing is it's saying give me the min of the date is open field, right? So one equals open, 0 equals closed, and we take the min value so that the period will be closed if any date in the period is closed in case of a roll up. So if someone's rolling it up to quarter or to year, it'll show the period is closed, and I'll show you how this works in the semantic model. And then we also have a forecast begin date. So this just takes the min of where the forecast is valid, and then we have an end date, and which just takes the max. So with those three values, now what I can do is I can come back here into my model, and by dragging date is open in here, you'll notice now I've got all periods, including periods in the future, right? So my quarters 2, 3, and 4 in 2026, and all quarters in 2027, right? But I really want to focus on the quarters, or excuse me, just want to focus on the year that we're forecasting against. Now, I could go in and I could create a filter. I could easily put a filter on 2026, and it would limit it to 2026. The drawback of that is that when we roll into 27, I've got to come back in here and I've got to change the filter from 26 to 27. So since we already have a field for that, we're going to drag this is valid for forecasts, and we're going to filter by that instead. And I'm going to get rid of my gross revenue now. And so there we have it. We have a dynamic modeling grid that can be used that'll show me all of my valid periods for forecasting, and indication of which periods are open and closed, which we can use in our planning sheet.